And as we talk about seeking validation from people, why the hell aren't people considering the Sacramento Kings title contenders?
Either don't know, don't show, don't really care about what's going on in Sacramento.
I guess that's what it is. I'm gonna offer a more realistic explanation.
Okay.
Because I was trying to remember, and I do not, and this is why this team is beautiful, is because I do not have the recall you do.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember important things, but you remember like minor details. I can't remember the conversation about Phoenix as they made that turnaround in a single year from the bubble to the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the conversation was, but there's a couple of things that pop out immediately to me. I remember running numbers following those bubble games, and they, during a stretch of the pre-March 11th games,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't the entire season, but it was like a 4-week stretch through, everything shuts down to get to the bubble. They play those 8 games. The Suns had, I think it was the best, and I don't remember if it was a efficiency rating. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was the top defense in the league
Mm-hmm.
and the top offense in the league. I don't imagine that fell off too much as they were making their run. So there were 2 things that stood out as we kind of posed the question, like, why aren't people taking the Sacramento Kings seriously? And I think everyone gets hung up, and I get it. They get hung up on the fact that the Sacramento Kings are a bottom 5 defense in the league. And seeing a team win a championship with a defense that bad, or even representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals, seems like a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where I don't know, because I remember they talked about this with the Nets last year. I think it was when, people were like, oh, they're dangerous and all this other stuff. And I think I heard people talking about no team with a, I don't remember exactly what the marker was, but it was just, let's just say bottom 3 defense has ever made the NBA Finals. I think maybe 1 or 2 teams ever made the conference finals. So I think that's where it comes from. When it comes to like what the recall of what people said about the Suns during their run, I don't necessarily remember. I know me personally though, I didn't think they could get to the NBA Finals, based off of where they were the year before, where they were in the bubble. I thought it was dope, how they did in the bubble. They got Chris Paul. Would that help them a little bit? I remember people were like, yeah, they're a team that could be like a 4th, 5th seed because of Chris Paul. I don't think anybody really took them as being the 1 seed with Chris Paul there and what they eventually did. They ended up being the 2 seed, right? I think they ended up being the 2 seed that year. Or were they
They weren't the 1? They were
No,
a
they were the
60-plus
2.
win.
I know that they were the 2 because the Lakers got in the play-in. They won that play-in game against the Warriors.
This was
Utah was the
21, right?
Yeah, Utah was the 1 seed.
Yeah, tremendous memory. 50, yeah, one game, 52 and 20, 51 and 21.
Yeah.
Were the respective records for and they were running away with that. There was Denver there at the 3rd spot.
So, I'm pretty sure, there was probably some of that, of like, they're not a finals team, in this first year, but there are probably more people that believed in them as opposed to the Sacramento Kings this year.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But I could probably give us a general idea. Looking back at that season, I'll just look at defensive points per game. Suns were 4th in the conference. So I know that's not defensive rating. It's defensive points per game. They were 4th in the conference. They had a point differential of plus 5.8. But it just came to our mind. Jesse was really fired up. He must have been listening to Bill Simmons too. He must have been listening to something that had him fired up, because we talk about this all the time about are you going to take this team seriously? When are you going to take this team seriously? Is it 176 points? Is that going to get you to take them seriously? No, that was just more of a, hey, that offense really is something.
Right.
How about that? Gave up 175 points. Gave up
Yeah,
175
that's the first
points.
thing they be saying is they gave up 175.
Scored 176, but gave up 175. And I think that's why so many people are willing to look at this Kings season as a cute little regular season success rather than a team that you should take seriously.
And the thing that I think about, and we talked about it on J Street Vibes, we talked about it with Jason, and everybody talks about, the 175 they gave up or whatever the case may be. And, we heard for so long, watch out after the All-Star break. Things are going to ramp up and it's going to be more like playoff basketball and all this other stuff. And one of the teams that I think we were all in agreement with was how the Clippers defend, how they play. They were going to be able to muck it up and make it look like playoff basketball. And you entered that game on Friday, it had a playoff feel. Everybody was ready to go. Everybody was charged up. Like there was no, they were asleep. They weren't taking it serious. Clippers wanted to make a statement. It was Russ's first game. There was energy in the Staples Center. There are no caveats to that game. And forget the 176. The Kings put up 153 in regulation. 153 in regulation over a team that we all said, this is the team that can play playoff basketball with you. Didn't matter. You can make the argument. It sounds crazy, but you can make the argument the Kings weren't even clicking on all cylinders. Malik and De'Aaron were going crazy, but Sabonis was in foul trouble for half of the second half. Kevin Huerter wasn't cooking. Harrison wasn't cooking. You know what I mean? Like they weren't. It wasn't the Nets game where everybody was hitting, and that's why they got their 153. They just got it because that's what they do.
Fouled out in that game, didn't he?
Fouled out. He was in foul trouble for much of the third and fourth quarters. So I don't know why they look at it that way. We also got into a discussion about, all right, when the playoffs come, they're going to slow that down. Who going to slow that down in the West? Because don't nobody play defense this year. And I'm talking about the first round specifically. Denver plays defense. You can make the argument Memphis plays defense. I could see Phoenix being a better defensive team.
Yeah.
But you might not even play them in the first round. Right. We talking about Warriors, Mavericks. Maybe the Clippers can do a little bit more. But like I just said, we got to go off of what we just saw. They gave up 153 in regulation. New Orleans ain't doing it. Minnesota ain't doing it. Who's going to stop this team from getting 120 a night in the playoffs? Those teams don't exist this year in the playoffs. At least where the Kings will be playing in the first round.
You don't think the Warriors could play? Phoenix, I think there was so much like eye roll inducing talk about Phoenix's offense. And I thought that was so short sighted. And maybe it goes back to the taking Kevin Durant for granted conversation. Because what is far more fearful to me is their defense. That's that with Kevin Durant on the floor, I'm far more afraid because he takes up so much space and can close gaps so quickly that your shortcomings from Devin Booker don't matter as much. The slowed down version of Chris Paul doesn't matter as much. But again, that matchup might not happen.
Yeah. And all I'm saying, I'm not saying it's impossible, but they're gonna have to show me. This team averaging 120. Remember we did the study? I did the study a couple of weeks ago of the teams that led the league in scoring in the regular season and then in the postseason. It always goes down a little bit. They're going to have to show me, whoever it is that's playing them, they're going to have to show me that they can keep the Kings to 110. Because until further notice, I think they're going to put up the same amount of points in the playoffs because their game isn't predicated on like this up and down type thing. Usually when you see teams like that, they have an unbelievably potent offense, both in the open court and in the half court. And I don't think that there are defensive teams in that area where they would be playing somebody in the first round that can stop that on a consistent basis. Don't see it.
There's I don't remember the exact number. We've just lost track, but you mentioned your study about teams that lead in the offense in the regular season and how it goes down a little bit in the postseason. That's fine. It can go from 120.7 to 114. And the team is still winning an astronomical amount of games.
28-8.
The win percentage is absurd.
Mm.
So cool. Yeah, you're right. They're slowed down a little bit.
Mm.
They're scoring 114 points per game. They're winning those games then.
Yeah.
Every metric we have this season, they're winning those games.
And Jason says, I said the Kings they talk about Dallas. He's like, Kings gonna score. I said the Kings gonna score 130. And then he said, and the Mavericks are gonna score 130. I said, no, they're not. They're gonna score 127 and lose. Because you, until further notice, you can't outscore this team. That's not what you're trying to do when you play them. You need a Toronto that they have like long arms. Yeah, you got to bully them. You got to slow that game down that way. And that's not what the Mavericks do. That's not what the Warriors do this year. That's not what New Orleans does. That's not what Minnesota can do. The Clippers, in theory, it feels like they can do that. But like I said, we just saw them give up 153.
Yeah, the Clippers can't play Sacramento's way. They have to play their way, and their way is effective, and that's what they have to do. Updated numbers from Will Z here: 114 plus points,
Jesus,
33-7. That's an 825 win percentage. They're averaging 120.7 points per game. So if they go down a full 6 points in the postseason, as the metrics say that they will, 33-7 with an 825 win percentage.
I have my notes right here too. Usually when you see them go down, I'm trying to see if I have the postseason. I don't have the postseason. Oh yeah, I do. It goes down. I don't know. What's this? This looks like about 6 points or so on average.
How about that? 6 points. Takes you to 114 exactly. Hey.
It's okay. It's okay.
Win.
Yeah, it's okay. They ain't got to see what we see.
Don't seek validation from people you don't care about. Go.
It's okay.
Go win.
Yeah, it's okay. They can see it however they want. And we talked about this as well. Jason agreed. It's like you're really going off of history, not what you're looking at when you talk about the Kings or you discount them.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like just, they haven't been here. We haven't seen them do it in the postseason. And teams in theory, in history, the game slows down and they're not going to be able to score. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a team that can score any way you want it. People have tried to take away the 3-point shot. They still find a way to score. They score.